This is Simona Rich, and in this video I'm going to read out my article on Cancer Ascendant. So Cancer rising people are ruled by the moon, but there are two distinct types of their bodily appearance and also character, depending on whether they are considered active or passive Cancer rising types. And again, Cancer rising doesn't mean your sun being in Cancer, but your ascendant being in Cancer, in case you don't know. So it's not your sun sign, but the ascendant, which is determined by the hour and not day of your birth. So now the description of the Cancer rising type that is active. Active types have narrower skulls, piercing eyes, sometimes aquiline nose, and ruddy complexion. The mouth is usually thin and firm, and chin pointed, and the jaws may be quite prominent. The body may be large and not well proportioned, and there could be something clumsy in the appearance. The body is quite strong, but liable to disease, and these people often get sick because of their self-indulgent habits. I think face-wise, the best example of an active type of Cancer rising is Lisa Kudrow, if I pronounce her surname right, whose charts Rodden rating is AA, which means her birth time is accurate. She has no planet conjuncting her Cancer ascendant, so we get quite a pure type, though of course you have to look at the sun placement and the moon and so forth. She looked even more true to her Cancer rising appearance before her rhinoplasty as seen in this picture. Maybe I should actually keep this, I will record the screen of my post also, just for you to follow what I'm teaching. And so we see that she has a ruddy complexion, sharp eyes, especially in this picture when she was older, and thin upper lip. And usually the active Cancer types have just very thin lips, quite thin lips, and we have pointed chin and also aquiline nose, pre-plastic surgery nose, which is very typical of the active Cancer type. And here we have another example, very good example of Carla Bruni, if I pronounce her surname right. So again, she has Cancer rising, and we can see that it's an active type because the face is quite narrow and the jaws are pronounced, and also lips. Here she's a little bit pouting her lips, but she doesn't have thick lips, she has thin lips. Her eyes are piercing, and her body is so Cancer-like because Cancer rising people have large body frames usually and large bones. The Cancer rising people body irregularity can be seen from the below pictures of, I won't pronounce that right, I don't know this person, I'm not interested in these celebrities, but and I don't have anything bad to say about them, I'm just not interested in modern celebrities usually, but I guess it's Kanye West or something like this. So we can see that, especially after he gained weight, you can see just that the body is not, there is some kind of irregularity in the body, the posture. You can just see, especially from these pictures, but also if you watch closely, you can see some irregularity here also, just from the way that he stands. I'm not even sure if Kanye West is Cancer rising, as his birth time is speculative, but considering that he has 4 children and that his body and face, which is of active Cancer type, look the Cancer rising type, I think that he is indeed Cancer rising. Now the passive Cancer rising appearance. The passive type is much easier to recognize because it's a classic Cancer pale look with big pale eyes and broad face. Sometimes the face is so pale that it looks unhealthy, and it can look like it has a layer of fat underneath even if the person is not overweight. it just looks like it's I don't even know how to describe. It's like you would think that the person is not in a good health if you would see such person. Lips are often large and sensual. Nose is usually wide and snub. Eyebrows are arching, giving a little surprised expression. The body is usually round, and women often have big buttocks and large thighs. Also, for a passive Cancer rising type, any planet close to the ascendant will influence its appearance much more than that would accomplish for the active Cancer rising type. The best celebrity example of a passive Cancer type is Angelina Jolie, but she cannot be pure type of passive Cancer rising because she's famous for so long, so which means that she had to work hard to keep her fame. So it's definitely not a passive type, but I think that she is, if I would have to choose a type that is passive, I would have to put picture of someone not in the public eye, and I don't think that's a good thing to do. So the best examples of pure types would never be found among such people who kept their fame for a very long time, because it means that they had to put in hard work. But I think she is a good representation because she often has very pale skin, her lips are big, her nose is snub and little wide, her eyes are large, and the body is kind of to the wider side. I think the face is to the wider side, so she's a very good representation of the passive Cancer type. So Angelina's ascendant is at 28 degrees Cancer, which is close to the degree of culmination, giving her more Cancerian qualities. So when people have planets on 28, especially 29 degrees, they usually display more pronounced qualities of that sign, because the sign is, if I'm not mistaken, I should check this word, but I think the term for that is that the sign is culminating. Her ascendant tightly conjuncts Venus, an influence which gives her beauty. In general, she has beauty and facial harmony, but doesn't overpower the Cancer sign, because obviously we have many lunar qualities in the way that she looks. And again, this proves that it cannot be a totally passive type, because if she were, then Venus would have totally overpowered the qualities of Cancer. And here we can see how her body looks. So again, it's a very Cancer type of look, the same as what we just discussed in the Lady Carla Bruni. You see their body structure is similar, so they have large body frame, but Angelina's moon is in distress in Aries, burned by Mars also, yet receiving great help from Jupiter, which keeps her frame large, yet the watery nature of the body is dried out because of the moon being placed in the fiery sign of Aries and being burned by Mars also. Cancer rising people often put on weight after middle age usually, unless there are some planetary aspects that would negate that, but usually that's the case. They put on weight with years. And now behavioral traits of Cancer rising people. Cancer rising persons are family oriented and they love their home. They usually respect their parents and appreciate where they came from. They are very attached to the past and treasure memories of people close to them. They get easily attached to people and suffer greatly if a close person leaves their life. They may be very clingy in relationships and they need constant assurance of love as well as compliments, as usually they have many insecurities about the way that they look, and also they just have various kinds of fears. They want to have families of their own and often create families early, especially if their sun or ascendant is located in the first decanate of Cancer, which is 0 to 10 degrees of the sign. And I write much more in detail on decanates in my ancient Egyptian tarot book, and I use this book as a reference when I'm doing life assessments also, because it goes much more into detail on each decanate, and I have not come across a website or any other source that has so much information. I'm not telling that there isn't, but I think my book contains a lot of information on decanates. They are community oriented and sensitive. Even if they can't have children of their own, they will somehow end up creating a community which would become their family, like Blavatsky did, and I will talk about her later. Cancer people find it difficult to forgive and forget. It's like Scorpio people. They can keep hurts for years. They are also very security oriented, so money is important for them for that reason. So basically, they keep hurts for years, and then they also dwell on them because they dwell in the past. Often their thoughts are on things that happened in the past and things that were sensitive, things that were emotional. They are the people that you may find stocking up on canned foods for possible disasters, because they are material security is very important to them. They also sometimes marry because they believe that the other half would assure their financial well-being. So yes, Cancer people do sometimes marry for money, and also people who have Venus in the sign of Taurus may choose a partner that's not only good looking but who is wealthy also. But after marriage, Cancer rising people often remain loyal because keeping family strong is important to them. They make excellent parents and they truly care for their loved ones, but for signs who love freedom, these people may appear too clingy, and they won't give too much space for. So for people who need a lot of space, like Geminis or Sagittarians, Cancer people might, if you're in a relationship with a Cancer person, they may look too needy and restrictive. One of the worst things that could happen to them is divorce, loss of contact with children, and loss of money. Cancer rising people are ruled by the moon, so their moods are changeable, and they can have days of happy moods followed by really low times. So, for example, Geminis are changeable in their moods, but they never go so deep, so high or so low as Cancer rising people do. If they have their low moods, they can be argumentative and fault-finding, but when their mood is good, they will be loving and caring. They often prefer spending free time at home than going out. Working from home or work connected to cooking suits them also. Cancer rising people, however, could also be good business owners, managers, and some of them are excellent with numbers. That's because of their innate security orientation that gives them excellent business and money management qualities. Though they are home lovers, they also love traveling, and if they can't afford to travel, they will travel mentally. Also, many of them are interested in psychic phenomena, but because of their high imagination, sometimes they get too deep into it and their health and career may suffer. The water element that rules them makes them passive unless some strong active indicators are present in the chart, which means that they are not likely to make a first move in romance, and they may end up reacting to the environment and friends rather than initiating independent action to manifest some dream. So here we have Madame Blavatsky, and she didn't have family of her own, but created a community around her which was like a family. They were caring for her. And when Krishnamurti, who was discovered by the Theosophical Society and thought to be the next Messiah, did they call him Messiah, or I forgot. There was another name that they gave to him. Maitreya, maybe like a Buddhist Messiah. It's called Maitreya. I forgot exactly how he was called, but they thought that that Indian boy is the coming Messiah, and they groomed him for that. And then suddenly he left the society, and it left her heartbroken, and it is believed that her health was never recovered from that blow. So that's very cancerizing. And also, she obviously, from her weight, you can tell that she had indulgences in food, which often cancer people do. They can't control their indulgences, and that ends up ruining their health. Cancerizing people should guard against overindulging in any appetites. The risk is to overindulge in sweets and other foods. Often cancerizing individuals prefer foods that are very bad for them. And also it could be other self-destructive activities. She was, for example, an incessant smoker, and although it totally badly affected her health, she continued smoking. So that's what sometimes cancerizing people do. Now the advice for parents of cancerizing children. People who are raising cancerizing children should be very observant for any self-indulgences and train them out of that. Otherwise, with age, these habits will wreck their health. Also, they may not eat as much as other children, and they should not be forced to. The food that they want can change from time to time, and this ideally should be accommodated to. These children need a lot of love, but their silent calls for love may not be heard because of their shyness. They need a lot of attention, but again, they are not likely to show that. However, they should never be overindulged, as they can easily get spoiled. They are very hurt by rejection. They need to be told how special they are, otherwise they may grow up with low self-confidence, and sometimes even as adults, they need that confirmation how special they are. They're very hurt by rejection. They need to be told how special they are, otherwise they may grow up with low self-confidence. Sometimes they need to be told compliments even when they grow up. It's important, however, to compliment only on existing good traits and encourage their development. Often other children take advantage of their loving nature, so this also should be guarded against. For example, other children may learn that being nice to them results in them receiving gifts from them, and therefore they may abuse their niceness in such a way. They should be taught early on to have their own opinion and to make themselves independent of the influences of others, as they may end up following the examples, either good or bad, that other children set, because they often lack initiative and follow the line of least resistance. Although they have a high imagination, which makes them overlook details of life, sometimes, not at work though. At work, I just told that, sorry. At work, they can be very detail-oriented and are often good at manual work of many sorts. They learn better through experience and through work with others than through books. So parents should not push them too much into higher education unless they themselves want to study. Children of this sign are very impressionable when they're growing up, so they should not be allowed to be with mentally unhealthy individuals, as they may take on their unhealthy mental traits. Also, they should be with physically healthy individuals because, again, due to their high sensitivity, they may be negatively affected if they are in company of people who are sickly or physically weak, like the elderly. People often take on the energy of the people they are with, so if they are with healthy individuals, they themselves will become more healthy, and if they are with sickly people, their own health will start worsening. Now health more in detail of cancerizing people. Health is not the strong point of cancerizing individuals. For example, Blavatsky, who was cancerizing, suffered from all kinds of health problems all her life, which were caused by her lifestyle choices, such as incessant smoking. This is again quite typical of Cancer-rising people. They sometimes find it difficult to resist self-indulgences that harm their health. Cancer-rising individuals should also guard against diabetes, Addison's disease, and tumors. These people are highly liable to contract infectious diseases and to have chronic illnesses. Women sometimes have troubles with ovaries. Their digestion is especially sensitive, and there could be degeneration of various organs because of passive lifestyle. They should make sure their diet is healthy and digestible for them, as if they don't take care of digestion, all kinds of diseases may start manifesting, and also drinking alcohol can ruin their stomachs. In general, Cancer people are very afraid of pain, but even so, they often don't take preventative measures to avoid later pain of disease. During the first 4 years of life, Cancer-rising people are especially liable to contract all kinds of diseases, but if they don't abuse their bodies and live moderately, they can continuously after their childhood strengthen their health and enjoy a long life, and health, if they take care of themselves, especially strengthens after around the age of 40. Quiet persistence is the modus operandi of active Cancer-rising people. Cancer-rising people are not totally passive, though it may sometimes look so on the surface. They do their work quietly and persistently, and slowly but surely they achieve success. And here I'm talking not about the passive type, but about the active type of Cancer-rising people. They don't expect to gain whatever they want fast. They are prepared to wait and work for it. Though highly sensitive in business, they are often not shaken by obstacles, but keep on working to slowly get those obstacles out of their way. Also, they often achieve their aims by working behind the scenes. By doing work in a way that doesn't bring attention, they can continue this way even though outwardly they are attacked. And this persistence and quiet way of working eventually gains them the ends that they seek. They change established order by destroying causes of some effects rather than openly attacking effects and causing visible change. So their work can be done in a way that people don't even realize what has been accomplished, because the effects take place only later on. We can see this method of work, for example, in the life of Blavatsky. She did not directly attack Christianity, but undermined its foundations by exposing people to older faiths that Christianity borrowed many of its creeds from. That is a usual method that Cancer-rising people employ to gain their ends. Laziness of a passive type of Cancer-rising. Passive type of Cancer-rising people do not employ quiet persistence. Instead, they allow life to do to them what it wishes. They do not resist, but just are pushed by the flow of life. They don't have the depth of feeling as the active type of Cancer, and therefore are not greatly affected by anything emotional, even if it's the death of a close one. They simply accept it as unavoidable and move on. They allow life to push them into occupations that require minimal work. If they get married and the other half is violent, they accept it as inevitable and stay, because change would require too much effort. If they are poor, they accept their lot and live on what's available. There is no fiery element in them at all to do something about the situation. Some people are deceived into thinking that such people would make the most reliable husbands and wives due to their passive nature, but actually it's totally the opposite. Any active force may take them totally under its influence. Thus, they could even leave the family if that active force does that job, is forceful enough. They are molded by strong influences. Such individuals' palms are often soft, fleshy, and very pale, so that's one way of determining the passive Cancer-rising type. However, if such active force doesn't manifest in their lives, they would remain loyal, not because inherently they are so, because they are not, but because initiating anything of such sort would cause too much trouble for them. They may be interested in history like the active type. They may like writing, but there is nothing original in their writing style. They may like to copy some appealing style of writing or write about something historical that left an impression on them. What often makes Cancer rising individuals fall? Sometimes their imagination makes them unable to see reality. They sometimes overlook important details. Often they fully trust their intuition, thinking of themselves as chosen by God, that they are more special than other people. High imagination and intuition can make them egotistic and excessively proud in themselves, not considering how others view the world. This makes them unable to see themselves and reality in true light and eventually causes their fall. Their elaborate imagination and emotions sometimes distort their past memories, and then they project this distortion of how things are today. This is the mistake. And then they project this distortion on how things are today. So they may be unable to correctly determine how others relate to them. There's danger of misjudging people based on what they did in the past rather than who they are today. For Cancer rising people, therefore, learning to be present without the involvement of the mind is of absolute importance if they want to see the world as it really is. So I highly encourage the teachings of Eckhart Tolle for such people. It's especially important for them to heal from and forgive all past hurts, because wounds inflicted from long ago could still shape the world that they see today. They also often either idealize people or the opposite, refusing to see true traits of such individuals. For example, if they adore some person, they will willingly overlook their opinions that disagree with their own. Or if they dislike someone, they will choose not to see a good heart that they may possess. This happens because Cancer rising people are ruled by emotions and sensations rather than intellect, and that's how you can appeal to them, but I will talk about this later. Also, sometimes Cancer rising people like to wallow in their own misery and to secretly enjoy their low moods. For example, they may convince themselves that life is hard because they are good people, and life is just difficult for truly good and sincere individuals. Such reasoning prevents them from finding ways out of their difficult situation. They are often very conservative and may shun new ways of doing things. They prefer looking for a solution in history or past memories than in new methods of doing things. Cancer rising people are so sensitive that they get hurt even when the other person did not mean to upset them in any way. They can carry this imagined hurt for years on their shoulders. Sometimes diseases manifest because they keep a lot of unforgiveness inside them. They are looking for approval and sympathy, and if they don't get that, their self-esteem suffers. They also often control their children even after they grow up, and if a child is pliable, later on they may resent this control of parents because each individuals are unique, and if we decide which road for them to take, they may later on find out that out too late and be resentful. Cancer mothers can be not only too controlling but too protective also, restricting the freedom of their growing children. They may be very proud of their children and fail to see their faults. This is unfortunate since if they see their faults, there's a possibility to remove them from the character as it's still young and flexible. How to appeal finally to Cancer rising individuals? You can appeal to them by making emotional propositions and by compliments, so you need to appeal to their emotions rather than intellect. They will listen to you if you have similar values. If they love you, they will yield unless you force them to. then they will stay fixed in their own beliefs. They appreciate people who work hard, so their approval could be won in this way too. It's easy to receive their generosity in times of trouble because they are compassionate. However, they are intuitive, so if you try to fake that you're in need, and you're actually not, they are likely to catch that. Sincerity, honesty, and hard work are qualities that they respect, so you can win their approval by displaying such traits. So that's all about the traits of Cancer rising people. I hope this was useful to you, and if you have more traits that you observed in them to share, then please do so in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Take care.